Perfect. Okay, so let's get it popping. So price to sell. So at the end of the day, guys, we're not just taking listings to get a listing agreement. You won nothing by getting something signed. We got to get this to sell. Okay. So here's what I usually say in a meeting with the seller, and I want you guys to kind of get this in your mind. My goal is to sell your home quickly and for the most money. I want you to say that when you guys, my goal is to sell your home quickly and for the most money. And by the way, quickly and for the most money are directly correlated. Meaning, if you take forever to sell a house, you will be losing your client money and you will be losing money. Matter of fact, you might lose your entire check because you do not sell this within the 6 month time or whatever you signed and you can't get an extension. So I need you to understand that quickly and for more money is not only sounds sexy, but it's actually what you want and it's actually what your seller wants. Okay. Does everybody understand the fact that when a home sits, you get less sexy, that you lose leverage, that people offer you less simply because you have not sold this property in a long amount of time? Do you guys understand that? So the goal is actually to sell the home quickly and for the most money, but these things are directly related. So when I talk to an agent who has a traditional listing, not a quirky one, like quirky ones might take a little bit longer, they're harder to price, whatever the case may be. But if I don't have a contract within 10 days, a contract doesn't have to be the one, but if I don't have an offer within 10 days, I personally start to worry. Like I'm like, I'm already sounding the alarm that early because time is of the essence. So this is what this class is about. Is like, hey man, like if you have a traditional listing and you understand the market and you know how to price a property, then you should be having activity within your first 10 days, ideally a contract. And if you don't, there's probably something wrong, right? And it could be wrong in a couple of different things, but usually it's pricing, right? At least pricing usually accounts for like 80% of it, and the other 20% is some of the other things that I'll teach today. Okay. So I want to let you know that you are on the same side as your seller. Okay. So I think we go into listing appointments thinking, okay, I'm going into battle. like I'm going into battle to win this listing from this person. This person's going to tell me it's worth $1 million and I think it's worth $500,000 and we're about to get into a fight. And I want you to know that everything I'm teaching you is actually the best thing for the seller and you are on the same side. I personally believe, and I think you would agree, that they also want to sell their home quickly and for the most money. Like we are on the same side. Like we're not against each other. All we really have to do is feel confident. And that's what I want you to have today because when you walk into these listing appointments, you have to come in with a certain confidence and you have to lay out the case in a certain way. So this is not whether or not we're going to do the strategy. Like that's not even an option. There's no option walking into an appointment that you're not going to follow the strategy that I've already come into this appointment with. Like to me, that's not even an option. Like, like it's either that or we're not selling, we're not even doing business because you're making up stuff and it's going to cost all of us, right? And we want the same thing. I want to sell your home quickly for the most money. Okay. So I'm going to teach you not to be so thirsty. Okay. Don't be thirsty because here's the thing. This is why you got an overpriced listing agreement is because you're so thirsty about getting this deal or getting something signed that you don't realize that getting it signed doesn't mean you're going to sell it. Right. And so, what is the point of having a bunch of listings that aren't selling? Nothing. You're just losing time, money. It's causing you stress, whatever. You're better off walking off. Like you're better off walking away from a crappy listing. I don't know if is Libby on here by any chance? No, let me see. I don't think she's on. This just happened. I wish he was on here because I helped her comp a property the other day. She goes in. I said, "Don't go in there. Lay your strategy down, and if it doesn't happen, you're going to be willing to walk away, right?" And she went in there. The guy didn't like the price he was telling her, so he didn't do that listing with her, but he gave her another property to sell. So thank you. You gave me the non-shitty listing to sell instead of the one that you were going to give me overpriced. Thank you. I think that's a win. Like, I don't want that non-selling listing. I don't want that. I want the one that's going to sell because nobody makes money unless we sell. So don't be so thirsty. So, where do I really want you to be? It's the return of the Mac, baby. You know, Arturo, give me a little something. Return of the Mac. Return. You guys heard that song? Return. I, I want you guys to get your swag on again, man. Like I want you to walk into these appointments in a different type of, swag, a different type of energy, so that you're leaving out of there saying, "Hey, listen, I got the listing, but I got the listing at the strategy that I wanted, at a price that's going to sell, at something that's going to make me money." So that's really, this presentation should be called Return of the Mac. That's what it should be. So I want you with the attitude of they get to work with you. Listen, these people they get to work with you because you're an expert. Okay. This is not like,
Yeah.
this is not, please work with me. Please give me your overpriced listing because I need a deal so bad. No, it's, hey, listen, I'm an expert in my field, and and you work with certain people, right? That align with your strategy. So here's what I want to teach you today. I want to teach you to come in confident. Okay. How do you come in? Out of curiosity, guys, in the chat, what do you think will give you confidence to walk in here and leave out with a listing that is priced like it should be? Where's my chat? I don't know. Or unmute yourself. What do you think is
Setting,
what's going to give you the confidence?
well, knowledge of what you're doing. That's number one.
It's the one,
Yeah.
right? It's understanding. That's why we're gonna talk about how to price the property, because essentially comp equals confidence, right? If you know your numbers, then you're going to be confident in your numbers. If you know the market, you're going to be confident. And that's this is where the confidence comes from, is actually from knowing your stuff. Absolutely right. So when you come in there and you don't know your stuff, that's when you start kind of like, whatever. And then sometimes you guys know your stuff, but then you start to doubt it because they start putting stuff in your mind, and then you start backing off of, whatever it is that, let me mute. Ceci's got her kids in there like a daycare center. No, I'm just kidding, Ceci. I just walked past her office. I saw him in there. So I want to give you some confidence today so you can walk in and stand your ground. Number two is you're going to set the standard. You're going to come in confident, and you're going to set the standard of how you work. This is how you work as a listing agent. I just had, I think it was Zardia. So Zardia is 18 years old in our office. In her first 45 days, she got 2 listings. One of them's already on the contract. But Zardia spoke to me before she went on these appointments, and I told her these exact things. I was like, we're going to make sure you're confident in the numbers. And listen, you're 18 years old. What a great time to set your standard. What a great time not to let these people talk you into being a non-expert, right? And you don't need you're 18, you don't need to necessarily, like, you're not going to live and die by this deal. So why don't you have the power to walk away? So I want you to come in confident because you know your numbers. I want you to set a standard of how you work and how you operate, and let them know what your strategy is. And if you come in with the attitude of, I'm willing to walk if we can't agree, like it's okay. And it's not even and I don't want this to be contentious. I don't want this to be contentious. I'm going to show you how to not to make it contentious. Like, all I'm saying is I'm going to show you that at the end. Like, I'll show you what's said at the listing appointment. I'll show you how to stand your ground. But the main thing is you got to feel confident in your numbers and in the way you're pricing the property and why you're pricing it. Um, so I want you to become the comp master. Okay. So that my goal today is to kind of go in there, show you kind of how we do it, or how I do it, how I learned how to do it. And just to give you a little background, before I got back into real estate, so most of you guys know I started back in the day in 2002 as a loan officer. Got my real estate license in 2006, left the industry when the market crashed, came back on the wholesaling side. But one of the best things that happened on the wholesaling side was I had to comp all these properties. Like, if you know anything about wholesaling, I have to get them at a certain price or it doesn't work. So the one thing, what, out of curiosity in the chat, when you're doing wholesaling or flipping, what's the one number? What's the one number you have to get right?
ARV.
ARV. That is the one number you have to get right is ARV. If you can't get ARV right, if you're a flipper, and you can't get ARV right, if you're a wholesaler, you're out of the game. And guess what? ARV after repair value is essentially the comp. What is a property worth when you sell the property? So over a year and a half period, I comped over 850 properties, and they weren't even local. They were in Jacksonville. So most of them were in Jacksonville, some of them were Orlando. But over that period, I started to get better and better. Even in a market I didn't even live in or understand, I started to see patterns. And I was like, hey, listen, I wouldn't put a contract on that property for anything over this if we're going to try to wholesale it. Because I was so confident in the value of like what that property would sell. Okay. So what is the number one thing? Put it in the chat. What is the number one thing that sells a home? And no wrong answers here, guys. No wrong answers here. But if you guys know me, he says price, price, marketing, marketing, price, price. Okay. Good answers. Good answers. Okay. All wrong. No, I'm just kidding. Great answers. Here's the number one thing that sells a property. Attention. If you don't get showings, if you don't get looks, if you don't get any attention, you're not selling your property. This is the number. This is the number one thing. Like, if you have a listing sitting right now, the reason that it's sitting is because you don't have attention. Nobody's looking at your. What's it? No, nobody's looking at your property, and a lot of that has to do with price. Yes. Okay, some of it, there's a couple of other factors, but I'd say at least 80% of it usually has to do with price. At least price is one of the most powerful reasons you're not getting attention, right? And we've used this example before, but I'll use it again. If even if you decide to let the seller tell you a price that's $5,000 to $10,000 different than where you're at. Let's say you want to price something at 549.9 and they want to price it at 554.9. That's only a $5,000 difference, no big deal. But do you know how many eyes and how much attention you lose after the 550 mark? When there's an entire group of people who have set their search to 550 or below, and they usually go in $25,000 in increments. Like very few people go and search a property up to 554.9. They put their search for 550, 575. So sometimes you lower something for $4,900 and suddenly you get a contract and you're like, why did that happen? Because you just dropped below a very major mile marker, a 550, a 600, a 400. The difference between 400 and 1,000 and 399.9 is a lifetime. That's what you guys don't understand is that these big markers actually mean something, right? And that's the reason you're not getting attention on some of your guys' property because you're like, well, I only overpriced it by a little bit. No, no, no. It's a lifetime away because you've lost 30% of your buyers that had put their search up to 550 and not 554.9. Does that make sense? Does everybody get that? That it's even more drastic than you think, even on a small amount. So attention is what sells your property. So here's what I want to do for some of you guys is listings, right? I love me some Biggie Smalls, and he says, he says I went from ashy to classy, right? And I want to take some of your listings and turn them from ashy to classy, right? I'm going to show you the 4 attention getters. Before we get into comping, I'm going to show you the 4 things that will actually get you attention on your property. Okay. So here are the more attention getters. Okay. Number 1 is presentation. Okay. So it does matter the way your home looks, feels, smells. The pictures matter. The MLS listing matters. That's all presentation, right? So, how many times have we told you guys, hey, listen, you're going to take 50 pictures, but not all of them might help you get attention, right? There's some of them that people will immediately rule out your house because of that picture. So don't put it in there just because you took the picture. So presentation, understanding that hey, listen, if you go look right now at some of you guys' listings, you might be a few deleted pictures away from getting a few more showings that might lead to a contract because somebody's ruling your property out based on something they saw that maybe if they went and actually physically saw the property, they'd be like, oh, that's not that bad. Or I love this so much that I'm okay with this thing. But you didn't do it. You left it in there. So presentation means all those things. Presentation also means when you go into the property and you're letting them know, what do you need to do before I go live with this? Like, I'm not putting this live until you fix all of these things. I'll give you an example. I had a listing last year, and I don't do a ton of production, but when I do, I'm like, I'm gonna sell this shit. Like, I am not taking on a listing to not sell it. And it was actually my sister's friend. So I went in there and I sat down with him and I said, and there was just some stuff on the house that needed to be done. I was like, listen, right now I'm thinking about pricing your property at 599. It's gonna be 600,000. He's like, oh man. I was like, I really was hoping maybe at least 625, whatever. I was like, as it stands, I don't see that. I don't see us getting the attention. I was like, but here's what I want you to do. I'm like, you see that funky little paint job you got on the outside? Fix that. I was like, you got those bushes or the lack of like any flowers and stuff in the front. Let's fix that. Um, he had done something weird with the roof. The roof had stains on it, like it was like a shingle roof, and there were stains. I was like, if you can get that like pressure washed or whatever, make that roof look whatever. And sometimes you tell people stuff and they don't do it. Well, guess what? A week later, I come back to his house and I was like, bro, he did everything I told him to. It was night and day. It was like the little paint thing made a world. Like I was like, oh my gosh, this looks so much better. And he pressure washed the roof, which was like that main thing, those stains, it's like a nice roof, but it has these stains. And I'm like, but now the roof looked new. And I was like, you know what, man? I'm pricing your property at 649.9. Bro, I went up 50 grand on my assessment based on those little presentation things that he did. I sold the home for 655. It's that important. Presentation is important. But the second thing is pricing, right? Which is what we're going to talk about today, right? And getting that price right. And I already given you an example of what happens. What happens when you decide, oh, I'm just going to price it a little bit over or way over, and how you decrease the amount of eyes on the property. People who could qualify for the property, you're ruling out because they're not putting their searches up to 650 if they can only qualify for 600. They're just not. So you lost all those people. And then by the time you actually lower it to the price it's supposed to be, you're 30, 45 days on the market, 60 days on the market. And now you're the weakest you've ever looked. This is, once again, none of this is good for your seller and none of this is good for you. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? I'd rather walk away. Okay. Number 3 is access. We won't spend much time on that. And access just means like, make it easy to show, guys. Listen, I put one thing in my listings: press showing time button. That's the only thing I click on my listings. Press showing time button. And ideally, obviously, a vacant house will sell quickly and faster. But even if it's not vacant, I will be negotiating with the seller to make sure anybody can see it whenever they want. That is going to be my goal. Hey, listen, I'm going to give you like an hour heads up by text or a 2-hour heads up, but people need to see this when they need to see it. I will not be shutting out showings. Like, I need everybody who can see this property to see it. So this is a big deal. Don't put this 24-hour notice thing and you got to talk to the listing agent and all. Every barrier you put before getting a showing instruction gets you put to the back of the pack. So change your access stuff. Just put showing time button and make it as easy. Usually in my showing time instructions, I put easy to show. Text me just an hour before or 2 hours before, just so I can give the seller a heads up to make sure they get out of the house. That's like if I don't have it vacant. Okay. If it's a tenant, we can talk offline about that, but try to make it as easy as possible. And 4, the last thing that sells a home and gets attention is an amazing agent. You're going to be a great agent, right? You're going to be great at following up. You're going to be great at sometimes it's going to get to a point where really you got to become a master negotiator. You got to start going back to your list of people who've already seen the property and start wheeling and dealing. If you've had a listing right now that's been on the market for a while, the closest thing to a contract are the people who've already seen it. have already shown interest, already made an offer that your seller denied because they were being greedy and you didn't have the heart to tell them to drop the price, well, guess what? Those people might still be around. And if they are around, I would call them back up and see if they're still interested. That's your closest thing to a deal right now. That just really is. Okay. And obviously after this class, some of you guys will be dropping your prices. I just talked to Joseph, who's on Gil's team now, and he just got a for sale by owner listing and got them to drop the price by 30K. That's like a win-win. Like you got a for sale by owner listing and you got them to come to terms with dropping the price 30K. That's what some of you guys are going to have to do. Okay. So we're going to do some good old fashioned detective work. Okay. We're going to do that. And so here's the thing, guys. I don't mind you guys using things like RPR and all that stuff to double check your work or just to get another data set. But what I'm going to show you is how I manually go in and kind of look at all the clues that are out there. Because I think at the end of the day, you're going to feel a lot more confident when you're digging through the MLS. And you're looking at all these little clues and you kind of become a master of like, ooh, I know what happened here. Oh, I can see what happened here. Oh, look, they priced it at this. They went down to this. They did this. Okay, cool. Why didn't that sell? Oh, they had a renter in there up until May. That's why. Or why is this on the market? Or what? And you just start looking at all these clues. And just so you know, there's not one. This is an art and a science. There's some science to this, but it's also an art. More and more you do these comps, guys, the better you're going to get. And right now, I will tell you one thing. The market is soft. So if you're like, what number should I go with? And you're thinking there's a higher number and a lower number, I would lean low. And I'll go through why you can't underprice a house. Underpricing a house isn't a real thing. You can't underprice a house. You can't do it. It's impossible because if you underprice it, your only result is multiple contracts, which will drive the price up. So why are we so worried about underpricing? What you really don't want to do is to overprice. Overprice is the ultimate deal killer. Okay. So I want you guys to take a picture of this. Okay.
Good, are you?
What?
Beautiful long weekend.
Who's this? All right, we gotta mute somebody. Who we got
You
mute?
just need, the shorts,
That guy.
nice, white t-shirt, and that's it.
Is that Ben?
But you know what? It's a great opportunity to learn it.
Dionisio.
Dionisio Tejeda.
Yes.
Hold on one second.
Dionisio, getting your mic off, bud.
He got it.
Got it? Okay, cool. I don't know why I couldn't see him. All right, everybody see this? Take a picture of it because I'm about to show you something. Okay, so I'm going to get out of this. You guys still see my screen?
Yeah.
All right, so you guys took a picture of that last slide? All right, so let me pull up the address that we were looking at before. Here we go. Oh, you still need to take that pic, Libby? Okay. Here, I'll pull it back up here. Here. Take a pic of this. I'm gonna show you why. So this is I'm gonna show you, you can set this up however you want to, but this is how I have my comp display set up. So I'm gonna show you how to set up your display in MLS the way you want to see it. And then we'll get to doing some comping the properties, and we're gonna go 306 Boger Boulevard. Okay. What is the city, Evelise, what's the city and the
It's Lakeland, Florida.
okay, Lakeland, and what's the county? There's that Polk?
Polk, yeah. The zip code is 33803.
306 Boger, Polk County. Okay, cool. You got that, Libby? You good? Okay, got it. She got it. All right. Let me get out of this. All right. So real quick, guys, I don't know if you guys know this, but you guys can set up displays. So you know how like when you go in your single line display in MLS and it just shows you like your like default display. I want you to set up a display in a way you want to see things because it makes it a lot easier to comp property. So you just go here to my matrix, my speed bar shortcuts. I don't know why it's bringing me to the screen before, but go back to settings and it brings you here. So my matrix, speed bar shortcuts, go to settings, and then you can go to custom displays. Okay. So you can actually create your own display in your MLS so that you can see the things you want to see, right? So if I wanted to add a new display, I would just press add and look at all these amazing things that we can have in our columns, right? If we wanted to. But I'm going to show you, I just showed you, I had to take a screenshot, is what I did. So I created Bob's comp display. And this is what I use when I go look at properties. So these are the things that I just showed you in that slide. And I just took them from over here. This is what I want to see in this order, right? The link, the status, the address. I want to see the closed price, the sold price per square foot, list price, lot acre sizes. Because if not, you got to scroll all the way over and look at a bunch of stuff that you might not really need to see. Okay, cool. So let's comp 306 BOGO real quick so we can start taking a look at what this is going to be about. All right. So what I usually do is I don't know anything about this property. So I usually like to get some kind of, specs on the property. Like obviously I want to know beds, baths. Maybe I want to know what they sold it for. So I usually use IMAP for that. All right. So I usually going to go to Polk County. I'm going to go 306 Boger. And here we go. Okay. So I've got the property here. Obviously, I have the owner, all that good stuff. And I just want to know what I'm looking at here. I mean, they even give you an estimated current value if you want to use that as a marker, but I know that they bought it for $220,000 in 2017. Okay. So just good to know what kind of margin that they might have on this property, how much, money they might be making on this property. So that's a good thing to know. But really what I'm looking at is I want to know that it's a
Bobby, I'm sorry not to cut you off. I don't think that's right. They purchased it at 375. I'm not sure why it's not showing there.
Did they purchase it or do they owe 375 on it?
They purchased it at 375.
Okay. So this information might be wrong. That's fine. It's not the most important information. But 3-bedroom, 2-bath, heated square foot 1637. Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
Okay. Looks like it was built in 1962, effective date 2005. So some renovations were done and brought up to code in 2005. Looks like it has a pool, covered parking, unfinished garage. Is it a carport? Is that what they got?
They have a garage, not a carport.
Cool. So what I'll typically do, and I'm just looking through this, and maybe there's some old photos as well. You can go on Zillow. Sometimes I'll go into. I'm just trying to get a sense of the property itself. Sometimes I go into Google Map. I'll go into Street View. I'm just going to see what the homes look like in this neighborhood. What kind of neighborhood am I looking at here? Like that helps me out a lot, like to see, these homes, right? So obviously an older neighborhood, but looks pretty well maintained. Okay. And I'll look through that. And like I said, maybe there's some old school pictures on Zillow that we can look at. Any information I can get to see like what it looks like. Here's some pictures of the pool. So it looks like, so this one has this estimate of 377. I don't know for sure what it was bought for, whatever the case may be, but this gives us a good, so now I'm like, okay, this is actually, really great information because I'm going to be looking at other properties and I want to know how mine compares. So some of them you won't have the pictures of the inside like this. but I just want you to get a picture of it so you have it in your mind. Okay, cool. So now let's go into MLS. Okay, so residential detail. I start broad first. Okay, so in other words, I'm not gonna do, I'm not gonna get too specific at first, like make sure it has the same exact amount of bedrooms and everything like that, because I don't know if there's that many options out there right now within 6 months. So let's just start once again, 6 months, pending, 6 months sold, active, pending, and sold. I want to see the whole thing. Active will be my competition. Pending will give me some information, like like how long it took to go pending will give me some kind of information. Obviously, we won't have exactly what it went pending for, but we can start drawing some clues from how long it took to go pending as to the value of the property. And then obviously sold will be the best indicator. So active, pending, and sold. Usually like to do in special sales provision, I put none because I don't want to see any short sales or, bank owns, things that might be priced lower artificially because of a distress situation. And then what I normally do, I will go over here on the square foot heated side and I will take the, if you recall, it was I think 1647 was the heated square feet, 1637. And then I'll go into here and then I will do 1637 for the sake of time. I'll do it myself, but I use my calculator. I'll do 1637 minus 20% of square footage. So I wanna try to put a border in. I'm trying to be as close to it as what an appraiser will look at, right? Like an appraiser is not going to look at a way bigger house and a way smaller house to compare to your house. Usually it's a kind of a 20% variance in there. So if I subtract 20% from 1637, I got 1309. So let's just do 1300 as our bottom number. And then let's do 1637 plus 20%. That gives us 1964. Let's just go 2000. Okay, so that'll be my range of square foot heated for right now. Let's see what we get. I'll hop over to the map. Okay, I'm gonna hop over to the map and I'm gonna put the address in here. And this says hop to address. If you used this before, jump to address. Boom, I put the address in here. Bam. Okay, now I'm in the neighborhood. Here I am. Looks like, is that the house next door that's listed, or you already have this listed?
This property is already listed. Well, this is my property that's already listed.
Okay, you already have this listed. Okay,
Mhm.
so you have it listed at 385.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. So, I mean, looks like you got some really good sold data here. I mean, this is all kind of the same type of neighborhood, yes, up here. Kind of no HOA
Yeah, for the most part.
built around it. Let's look at this one. Let's see. Let's make sure. Let's see one. 1657 square feet built in 65. Yep. Look, this one went on the market 6 days. Yeah, this is you got a lot. So in something like this, you've got a lot of good data. And it's not always like this, guys. Like sometimes we got to get a little creative. So here's what I want to do. I want to see if I can get as many of these solds. Okay. So this area right here seems pretty strong. I typically don't want to cross a major road like this because neighborhoods can change and I want to stay in the same neighborhood. So if I went in there and I saw that the homes up here were built in 2005 and mine's at 1962, like that's not a good comparable, guys. Like that, we're not even talking the same type of deal. I'm looking for homes that are ideally in my own neighborhood, which all of these seem to be the same neighborhood, but so does this area here. So this is actually a good amount of sold data here, and we have some competition and no pendings, okay? So I'm going to take this. So they made it easy on me. Sometimes I do a polygon, and if it's a weird shaped neighborhood and I have to do like a weird shape, that type of thing. But in this particular case, I'm just going to do a rectangle because it's super easy. Okay. So I'm just going to take a look at this properties and then let's see what we got. Okay. So let's go to the single line display. You remember when I talked to you guys about setting up your display, right? Guess what? There's Bob's comp display. So right now they got a bunch of stuff and this is not too bad, but there's just a way I like to see the information. So I'm gonna go to Bob's comp display and I'm gonna start looking at this. Okay. So all these properties are within 20% below or above my range, minus 1637. Okay. Okay. what is the first thing you see right off the rip? What's the first thing you see right off the rip?
Everything's in the
There's
low.
nothing. There's nothing at 380. The closest one's like 360.
Right. So I don't care if you put a gold toilet in there. Right now, what you're looking at is the highest property that has sold in the last 6 months is 360,000. Okay. And you're at 385. So right off the rip, I'm like, hey, we might be a little bit off in price. There could be some other compensating factors, but there's something I like to call what a neighborhood. This is a good example of what I call a neighborhood threshold, right? Meaning like, no matter what you did to that property, there's only so much money somebody's going to pay to live in that neighborhood.
Right.
It just is like, because there might be somebody selling new construction for 385 down the street. Why am I buying a 1960? I don't care if like you put the nice countertops in. I can get a brand new 2025 home for 395. Why am I going to pay 385 for a home that was built in 1962, even if it has 2005 effective date and some remodels? It just ain't gonna happen, right? So right off the rip, I see this. Okay, so let's take and so let's just look at some of these ones that have sold. Let's start with the highest one. Let's do it. Okay, so this one sold for 365. Average days on the market 12 days. I told you guys, I'm trying to get something under contract within that 12-day mark, 10-day mark. This one took 12 days. This is right within that range. That says to me, hey, they did something right. They priced this at a price that made sense, right? Their list price was 365. They sold it for 360. Oh, they didn't sell it for 360 actually. Look, seller credit 5,000. They sold it for 355. Okay? They sold it for 355. So that's what really happened at this thing. Now it was cash, so somebody might have gone a little more aggressive with it. But let's take a look how this home compares to yours. Okay? Very well done. You know, yours is nice, by the way. But this has like, you know, the clean white lines, the new, looks like either wood or vinyl. Oh, it has a movie theater. You know, yours has a pool. This one doesn't. So that's something. But I don't know that your house is immensely better than this one. Like I don't know. I don't see it. Now it's slightly smaller. But you know, it's a really nice home. So it tells me something. So here's what I like to do is, all you guys, is when I find something that I feel like, okay, this kind of matches where I'm at, I like to look at the price per square foot. Now this one's slightly smaller. As square footage gets smaller, usually price per square foot goes up naturally, but it's not that much smaller. Yours is 1637. This one's 1560. So it sold at 230, but it didn't really sell at 230 because we know that this actually sold for 355. So if I take 355,000, you guys can do this in your calculator too. If I take 355,000 and I divide it by the square footage, 1560, I get $227.56 a square foot. So let's say 227 a square foot. Okay. It's not a bad marker to look at, but let's look at the other ones. Okay. This one sold for 349. This one is 1,700 square feet. So this one's bigger than yours. The date was, and oh, by the way, this year built was 1992. You're active here at 385. And you're in 1962. So that's a pretty big difference in age gap. And that's sold at 360. So, take a look at this joint here. Okay, 33 days on the market, a little longer than I like it to take. Sold for 349. Let's see if it was really 349. Yep, 349. Okay.
Just to give you some context on the sellers, they are not the easiest. We're now having the conversations where they're seeing. I believe it's because they're not, they want to sell, but I guess they're not desperate. But they're realizing that they're gonna have to go low on the price. They were really firm at first and didn't want to go low on the price. And the husband and the wife are both, they have two different mindsets when it comes to that. The wife is more understanding, the husband is more firm. Um, and so I'm hoping now, and I've been having this conversation with them, that we can go low on the price, because from the beginning, um, I knew the price was too high compared to the comps,
Okay.
but they just weren't budging.
Okay. Well, this is what I'm going to teach you today. That should be, if you come in confident with, I'm going to show you how to have this conversation, but you got to be willing to not take this, because what's going to happen is you're going to keep this thing for 6 months, and then they're going to give it to another agent, drop the price and sell it, or they won't even sell it at all. They just take it off the market because you just told me they weren't desperate. If somebody tells me, listen to me, guys. If I'm in a listing appointment and somebody says, "Oh, I'm not really that desperate to sell," oh, then let's not sell this. That's what I would say. Oh, really? Oh, then we don't even need to have this conversation. Oh, what do you mean? I'm like, well, if you're not wanting to truly sell, then all you're doing is wasting your first impression on the market. And I don't want you to do that. You're going to lose a ton of money that way. So let's not put it on the market until you're actually ready to sell. Like, when you're ready to sell is when you put it on the market. You never put it on the market when you're just, if you want to test the waters, because you waste your first impression. And now you've got all these days you're on the market. And guess what? Realtors can see that. Even if you take it off the market, they can still see it unless you leave it off for 60 days. It's just not a good selling strategy. So if you're not really ready to sell, no problem, no problem. I'll follow up with you, and we'll wait to do that. But I won't let you lose money like that. That's the conversation I'm telling you to have with people when they say some crazy shit like that.
So I know that now. This was actually my first listing when I joined the
Yeah, and
team.
I'm
And
using
they
you as an example. You don't have to defend yourself at
No,
all.
no, no. Yeah, that's fine. But that's what they actually fired another agent prior to me, and they denied. They actually had to offer with that agent at 380 and denied it, and they're regretting that as well now.
Yeah, I mean, look, but I'm just saying this is perfect. You just happened to you on your first one. After this, you will never do it again, right? You will come in confident, you will set your standard, and you will be willing to walk. So I want you to do this math problem with me, Evelise, or we're just going to call you Eve, whatever. Listen, $227 a square foot. I want you to multiply that by your square footage and tell me what you get. 227 times 1637. Do that on your own calculator.
Yeah, I did that already. So we're like at 371 ish.
371, so 227 times.
371 599.
Okay. So yeah, I got three. Yeah. Okay. So 371. So I think if I was that close to a marker like a 370, I would lean toward 369.9.
Yep, I agree.
I would look for 369.9. Let me drop. What's it worth to stay over the 370 mark for $1,000 when I can get way more attention for 369? If I can get way more attention at 369.9 and get a contract, then I can drive it up to 375. You know what I'm saying? If I got multiple contracts, but that's what I would tell them. I was like, you need to drop this thing to 369.9. And to be quite honest with you, that other one that sold, they have a pool, so I think the other one that sold for 355 is actually nicer on the interior than yours is.
Yeah, it is.
They don't have a pool, so that gives you some positive, assuming somebody wants a pool. So I wouldn't even be so. I honestly, I wouldn't. I would if I were to go into this initially, like I might have gone 359.9. I would have leaned low, because remember, the market is softening every month, guys. Like, the market's been softening. So you're not pricing it just for right now. Like, dude, if it takes you a few weeks to get a contract or whatever, it's like the market's softening. So we want to get as much attention right off the bat. And remember, you cannot underprice a property. If you underprice a property and it's a steal, the only outcome is multiple contracts. And the thing that gives you the most leverage in a deal is a contract. So I think this is a good example, and this one gave you guys like a lot of data. Like, there was a lot on this map we can draw from, and to me, it was right off the rip. We saw, hey, listen, you're about 25 grand, at least 25 grand off of where you should be, right? This one at 360 sold in 12 days and still gave a $5,000 credit. You know what I'm saying? So, like, to be quite honest with you, if I would probably even go at 359.9 versus 369.9 because that 227 is not an actual and I don't know when did this sell. That's the other thing. This sold in March, so we're now almost 3 months removed from this, and I tell you the market's getting softer every month. So
Mm.
I would really lean lower if I could get them say, listen, you know what? Number one is, do they really want to sell? And number two is, this is the price that I think we're going to get attention for this property, and see if they're willing to drop it to 359. If they really fight you, then settle on 369. I don't think it's not necessarily a deal killer at 369. And then go from there, and then you'll sell the property. Okay, let's try one more.
Thank
Let's see
you.
if we can fit. Yep, absolutely. Let's see if we can fit one more in. These take a while, and by the way, this takes a while. A pool is maybe 15,000 appraised value. Yeah, Ben, that will vary based on the neighborhood too, and maybe 15,000 if somebody wants a pool. Somebody might be like, I don't want a pool. Like this adds no value to me. Like I don't want my kid to drown in a pool. I don't want a pool. I don't want to take care of a pool. So you having a pool doesn't give me value. You know what I'm saying? Pools really give you a lot more value in like the upscale neighborhood, because people who have a lot of money definitely want a pool. Like they want to live the lifestyle, right? But sometimes in a neighborhood like this, not much value to it. So I know Arturo, you put yours in. Has anybody got one that they're having a real tough time with? I feel like Arturo is pretty confident in his. Okay,
I got
12:30.
one.
You're
Well,
welcome,
now
man.
you're making me feel like I'm not confident.
Okay. Oh,
Just
yeah,
kidding.
you want me to do yours, Arturo? Because you did
No,
put yours
no,
in.
go ahead and get another.
No, no. Do you want me to do yours? But I don't know. I feel left out, bro.
All right, let's do it. You don't know the price. You don't know anything about it. So let's see. Let's see
Okay, so
what
this is
you got.
off the market right now.
Correct.
Yeah, because the other one was on the market. We already knew what she did. Okay, so and what is this? What is the city?
It's Altamont Springs.
Seminole County. Okay.
Okay,
Uh, let's try to do this one quick. All right. Great court. Okay. Says here they bought it in 97. No, that was the land probably for 41. Okay.
yeah, they built
Okay.
it.
They had it at, and it's funny, we were talking about her property, they had it estimated at 352, didn't they?
Yeah.
So,
Or
yeah, so I mean, they weren't crazy off, you know. That could be it. The other one sold for 355. This one says 62. Let's see where they're at. All right, we've got 4 bedroom, 4 bath. Is that correct?
it's 4 bedroom, 3 full, and 2 half. So like 4.5.
Two half. Okay, got it. This is 4, 3.5, something like that. All right, 3190, built in 98. It looks like a pool, garage. Yes. Okay. 3190 square feet, 4.3. Got it. Okay.
4.5 technically.
Okay. Got it. 4.5. So it has 4 fulls.
It has 3 fulls and 2 halves.
Yeah, that's weird.
So technically.
I don't want to hear you technically, all right?
I'm
Doesn't
trying
have
to
a
sell us
full
nice.
full bath, right? It just doesn't. All right, let's do this again. Active,
Hey, while
pending.
you're doing this too, do you ever check off expireds? Because I was told one time to do it just to see what's not moving or like what to. I don't know. Everybody has a little bit
You
different.
could. I don't usually. I can usually see the actives that aren't selling.
Yeah.
So that's usually enough for me, but you can do that too. This
Okay.
is not, like I said, this is not hard and fast science. If you guys got other uh, strategies on how to comp, but like I'm just teaching you this because I want you guys to start looking at some of these clues, and some of these are harder than others. I don't think that last one was that hard. Uh,
Yeah.
so some of them were harder than others. So this one is 30
31.
3190 minus 20% brings us to 2552. So let's say 2,500 square feet. And then 3190 plus 20%, 38. Let's just bring it all the way up to 4 grand. Okay. So we're going to go to map.
So you were talking about not crossing big roads, on the last one. That road right there in the middle,
Yeah,
that
McNeil.
separates zip codes. So I got a question about that too.
You got a zip code separator.
Zip code separator.
Right? That's next level stuff right there, buddy. All right, here we go. All right, so you've got one pending right next to you, which is at least good. Okay, you've got another one pending over here, but I don't know if the same type of neighbor. When was this one? 98, built in 98?
Yeah, 98. Yep.
This one was built in 2001, so not bad. Okay. You've got these might not be the same. This might be a newer neighborhood over here. Let's see. No, these were built in 98. Any reason that, so this is brand okay, so this goes into a Popka is what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, completely separate zip code and city. But I had to have that conversation too to let them know that it doesn't necessarily correlate 100%.
So
Yeah, east will be in the same zip code, and then west will be in different zip code.
so here's a good thing that you can try. So right now, if you guys notice, there's a road here that kind of separates neighborhoods. Could be a totally different quality neighborhood. We didn't look at like this would be a good one where we go to the street view and I kind of looked in that neighborhood and see, I'm like, are we looking at the same type of neighborhood? Like, these houses.
Yeah, they're all very similar.
And then in the other neighborhood too, they look just like this, or does the other neighborhood look nicer?
They're similar. They're actually pretty comparable in regards to the way they look. I mean, some of them are 3-car garage homes.
This is a 4.4 that's pending. That's 775,000. I mean, are we looking at the same type of home?
A little bit more updated.
Yeah, let's go back to your pending. Let's take a look at this thing.
The listing is probably in some ways about the same quality as this one.
Yep.
Just more just original. Doesn't have carpet, has hardwood floors, but then has this one has some things that are nicer.
Okay. Here's the deal, guys. Let's look at some clues.
Yeah.
Okay. So number one is this is actually a 5-bedroom, not a 4. Okay. So that's, even though the square footage is similar, it does have an extra bedroom. Look at these days on market. So combined days on market was 217.
Yeah, they started at
Something-
785.
Okay. So this is why you don't overprice, right?
Yeah.
So original price, they're saying 735, but did they take it off? Did they take it off the market for a while?
Yeah. Yeah, the first agent had it at 785 down to 775. Then this new agent put it at 735. And I think my sellers talked to that seller and told them that they were going to list at the price that we're talking about. And that's why she jumped down from 735 to 699. Then got a pending contract.
So here's the thing, guys. I mean, they decreased it, right? They dropped it below a major mark.
Yep.
And in 5 days, they got a contract.
Yep.
Okay. But here's my question. My question is if these guys would have started at 735 from the beginning, could they have gotten more money for this house? Because at this point, you are a very desperate person. But remember, this went on the market in September of 2024, and the market was better, in a sense, right? It maybe wasn't as soft, right? So this is the kind of stuff that I'm telling you not to do, because if these people would have stood their ground, been confident, and be willing to walk away and gotten these guys to say, hey, listen, man, this thing's not going to sell for 785, and put it at this, they might have gotten 725 for it.
Yeah.
But now, after all this time, you have to drop it to 699. right? And now that's hurting. Now potentially that hurts him, you know. But this is a 5-4. After they drop, it looks like the last time they listed 46 days. So, yeah. And you said this is pretty comparable to yours. Okay, so here's the thing, guys. We don't have a ton of data here, but I'm starting to see the picture. Maybe you guys are starting to see the picture. I really want to focus on properties that are around him. One thing I do sometimes is, so as you see on the map, you know, there's really nothing around him. You know, there's this pending one over here for 569, which we could take a look at. I don't know if this is kind of in the same.
No, this one's pretty rough.
This one's pretty rough, right?
It looks like they got a new picture. Oh, nope. Yeah, this is a rough one.
This one needs a lot of updating. So this is not necessarily our best, you know, comparable here. 249 days on the market, under contract, accepting backups. And then you want to read all this stuff too, by the way. And sometimes in realtor remarks, they say stuff that you'd be like, oh, that's why, you
Yeah.
know. They started original price. So yeah, that one was rough. So what I'll do sometimes, guys, is I'll go back in days to see if I can find anything that sold. So let's go back a year and see if I find something that sold close to it. So still nothing's really showing up in this particular area, even at 365 days. Let's go back 450 days. Still nothing.
Very low turnover there. I mean, would an appraiser go that far back in time, or would they just go further out in?
No, they might go further out, but this is for us because I'm looking for data points. Remember, I'm just a detective looking for clues.
Yeah.
Right. So while I rather have something in the last 6 months, if I can find something in the neighborhood that is similar that sold a year ago, I can kind of make some little adjustments and say, well, you know, last year was this, it might have been a little bit higher. I'll make some adjustments, but at least I know what sold next door versus what sold in this neighborhood, because this neighborhood seems to be selling totally differently. You know what I'm saying? Like this one's a 6-bed, 5-bath at 665. That's interesting.
Mhm.
But then you have a 4-bedroom here that's pending at 775, but I don't know what it's actually. So I mean, that went pending in 5 days, so it's got to be close.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's so special about this neighborhood. Maybe it's, you know, maybe it's this, maybe it's just a nicer neighborhood, you know.
That's good for sure. Yep. They got more amenities.
More amenities. Maybe it's the fact that yours is in Seminole and the taxes are way lower over here in Apopka. Because that just seems, you know, interesting. I don't know that I would price yours in the sevens. You know, it just seems risky to do that, especially when one's pending next door for 699.
I have friends who live in both those neighborhoods because I went to Teague Middle School.
Yeah. Okay.
It probably is the amenities and because you get a tennis court, playground. I mean, the way it's gated, if yours isn't, but I mean, you just more homes. So Arturo, you're kind of in like a 10 home, 10 to 15 home neighborhood.
I believe there's like 20 homes in there or something. I mean, maybe less. Yeah. I think
It's just this little neighborhood here.
yeah.
Right. So you kind of just you got to either like the house, but you don't get anything with it, and it could vary just like by that.
Yeah. 100%.
And there's just
Yeah.
high turnover in that Brantley circle. People, those are very nice homes though. Inside, some people do renovate, but 3,000 square feet, 3,500. So they might just get bigger homes there, and people would turn on those faster.
This one here is scary because this looks like a nice home
Yeah.
and it's a 6-bedroom. I mean, it needs some updating.
I think lots look bigger in that neighborhood too. Like a lot of them have pools with larger homes.
Yeah, this home has a pool too. I mean, Bobby, I guess I was leaving the last little carrot detail out to see what you came up with, but
Okay, so before you say anything,
okay, got it.
right now, I want everybody to put in the chat where you think you would price this property. Like, I need to test you guys to see if, like, you guys are kind of saying, okay, cool. I've got this situation. I've kind of seen a bunch of clues here. Um, I'm looking at, these two neighborhoods. This is a small, like 20 home neighborhood. This one has amenities, definitely selling over here, different zip code, looking for something to sell here. Not a ton of data.
The same school zone too. So I mean, that's a big draw for some people, but
Okay, nobody's putting anything in the chat. There we go. I got Ben Berry at 669.9, 674.9, 689.990. I like how everybody's getting super specific. Listen, I think all of these could work.
so let me ask you this. Let's just say, hypothetically speaking, there's about 460 square feet of unpermitted finished attic that was used as a bonus room. Would that give it some sort of value? Like not obviously value that you can put on paper, but perceived value from the buyer.
Here's what I'll say, and this will happen a lot, guys. Like I said this to Libby the other day. It's not the reason you're going to get more for your home, it's the reason you might sell it.
Right.
So there's certain things about your house that, for instance, Eve was in a neighborhood that doesn't look like, is really more than a 365 type of neighborhood, right? But, and she might say, yeah, but mine looks nicer. Well, it might be the reason we get a contract quickly and get more than one contract, but it's not a reason to overprice it by 25K.
Right.
Right. You know what I mean? You mean, so like in your case, it's nice for somebody who was looking for something extra like that, but I don't know that it's going to move the needle in a way that we would like bring it up in price. Karen says 679.90. Yeah, listen, I we don't have a ton of data here, but we do have this at 699, which is one extra bedroom. This one spent a lot of time on the market, so it's a little bit stale. I don't actually know what the price they offered them was, so that's
Yeah.
where we're a little bit out there. That one that we had, this one scared me. That 665 over here.
Mhm.
That one needed, I think we just looked at it. That one needed a little bit of updating.
Yeah, that was a while back ago. I think that was like over a year ago.
Oh, wow, okay. That's right. Because we went back on the criteria. Let's go back to 180.
Well, so you know, so everybody's guessing, everybody's pretty close, spot on. And we talked about that too, because they wanted to price it over 700 because of that space. And I go, unfortunately, it's not something that'll help you. So, I mean, yeah, it's got perceived value in the eyes of someone that will like to have that, but it can't be priced per square foot because it's not permitted like square footage. So,
So, okay. So what were you thinking about pricing it at?
679.9.
679.9. I don't hate that at all. I think that that's a good. I think everybody was kind of around there.
Yeah. I think the worst case might be actually what Ben said, around 669. In the event that, it's a little bit not as updated. I mean, it's well maintained, but it's not, updated to the nines or anything like that. So it's got a lot of pros with the location and the size of the house and the added square footage that isn't official square footage that's finished, so it could be utilized space. But I think that, I have a feeling these sellers talked to the neighbor and they probably told him the price they were going to list at, and that's probably why that list agent went down $36,000 to get a contract, because
Okay.
they were just sitting there for a while.
Yeah, and I think you have an advantage by pricing it right off the bat. Remember, these guys started
Way high.
way high, right? So, you don't want to waste your first impression on the market. The first day it goes on the market, it's the sexiest, and every day that it's on the market, it loses sexiness. So I hope that helps some of you guys, but I'm going to finish it up with kind of like talking to you about the actual appointment and how you come into it. So let's see. Saw this. All right. So here's the deal. Anybody ever seen the show? The show Suits. First of all, it's a great show. Yeah, Libby loves it. Okay, so Suits is I love lawyer shows, but I want you to kind of come in here, not only like a lawyer making your case, but I want you to come in here like Harvey Specter, this guy right here. Harvey Specter is like the epitome of like the shark lawyer, but like super confident, like knows that he's good and has that attitude like, hey man, like you get to work with me. Like I'm Harvey Specter. Like, and I need you to come in here and walk into these appointments and make your case. Uh, and this is his attitude. Anybody can do my job, but no one can beat me. Right? Like you guys, after these classes and stuff, need to start having these conversations and having them in the right way, the way a seller, so you don't start off shooting yourself in the foot, because that's the tough part, you know. And Eve, you're not alone. Like there's so many people on this call and in this office who are now doing the back pedal job, and I want you to come in and like say, listen, this is how we gonna do it, and but do it in a way that they understand that like you're going to stand firm, but you're standing firm because you have your best interest in mind. What's your best interest? Sell the house quickly and for the most money, which is what I think that you guys want. So here's what you're going to bring. So we've done a couple comps here. You kind of get how I do the comps. We've looked at different clues, and at the end of the day, I'm telling you lean low because the market's softening, right? But what do I bring? So number one is we can go ahead and bring some of that cute stuff that people like to see. All right. So the cool thing is EXP has this great Canva center of stuff, you know, print out all the stuff, you know, with the pictures and the stuff. I want you to create a website for the property before you even go to the listing. Like I want you to have all the kind of stuff that lets them know, like you've been working on their stuff. You've been thinking about how you're going to market it. You know, like, so bring the flyers, bring all that good stuff. If you want to bring a big, thick, you know, CMA, you know, kind of package where, you know, I used to always like to use the MLS Cloud CMA because it shows you all the pictures, and then I can kind of like I can pick the listings that I want to use in there and like make my case with like a big thick packet. But at the end of the day, I don't need all that stuff for the listing appointment. I just bring it because people like to see that kind of stuff and it's cute, but it's not going to help them sell their house, but they like it. Okay. Um, what I'll do is I will print these comps. So the comps that make my case, right? The comps that make my case for like, here's why we should price it at this. And some of it are I bring some comps that are examples of what not to do. So we could bring that pending one next door, and we could say, look where these guys started. Look what they had to do. Look how much money they probably lost. Look how many days and much time they wasted on the market, where they could have priced this right from the beginning, got massive attention and sold it. And so what I'll do is I will actually print these out, and I want you to mark them up before you go. So what are you marking up? I want you to circle days on market for the property that's sold, or if it's a pending, hey, listen, this one pending in 5 days. So what we know about, we don't know exactly what the contract is, but usually when something goes pending within 5 days, it means it's probably pretty close to asking price because they got a contract on it quick. Because most people are not going to take a big shortcut on their price in 5 days, right? So you're circling that. Maybe you circle something else about the house. Hey, I know you were talking about the house next door, you know, going pending or sold for this much, but here in the description it shows new roof in 2024, new AC in 2024, replumbed in 2025, all this stuff. I'm counting about, you know, 45 to $50,000 in upgrades right there on that home. So we can certainly price it for that. But we're gonna have to invest 45 to $50,000 into the home in order to get it to that price. Is that something that you're willing to do? Okay, so if you're not willing to do that, then we're going to have to price it accordingly because this house here had all of those things already done, and those are major components and part of the reason they sold it for that. So these are the things that I'm ready to explain as I present the data. Okay, so bring those printout, and then I would bring obviously your laptop with the saved search. So what I just did with you guys, you can go through with them too, right? You can say, hey, listen, just let me just show you what I'm looking at here from the sky view. So here's the map layout. I've got That neighborhood over here is a little bit different. As you can see, look at the pictures over here. This one's gated, has all these amenities, and has all these different things. And I'll be showing them the pictures. Like I said, I'm just making my case like I'm Harvey Specter. I'm in a courtroom, I'm making my case, and I'm going based off the data. This is not how I feel about it. This is what the market is willing to do. Okay. So what do you actually do? So so now you've got your data, you're ready, but there's like a cadence to this when you get there, right? So number one is I always start with the house tour. So we get inside. Maybe you find that table where you're about to sit down. Hey, let me put my stuff down real quick. I just want to take my notebook with me, take some notes, but give me the grand tour, give me the tour, And then so you're going around the tour with them. They're taking on the house, take me inside. You're asking them questions. Did you do any upgrades here? When did you replace the AC? Blah, blah. You're building some rapport. You see some pictures on the wall. I'm like, oh, what's that? Who's that? Oh, that's my son. He graduated from, Missouri, and, he plays football. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. But I'm just building rapport, taking notes. So the first part is kind of like that easing of the pressure. We're just like, give me the tour. Like, I already know what I'm going to do when I get there. Number two is now we're going to sit down. So now we got into the whole tour. Now we're going to kind of sit down, kitchen table, sit down. You got all your stuff stacked over here, but we don't have to get into all that yet. We're going to get into a little bit more of the story. So tell me, I know you said you wanted to sell the home and all that stuff, but the house is beautiful. What makes you want to sell it? Like, what's the main motivation here? And maybe you start getting a little bit more of their story, blah, blah. And it's like, where are you guys thinking about going to next? We're still in that getting more of the story. What's their true motivation to sell, blah, blah. And maybe this is where Eve would have found out that they're not desperate to sell, right? That they're, we don't really need to sell. We just kind of feel like we would like to maybe get somewhere else. Okay, so how important is it to you to move to North Carolina? And when would you ideally want to be there? It's like we're getting to that story still. Okay. Now, here's where it starts getting to where we're going to start presenting our case. So after you get all that stuff, so you've already done the tour, you've already got great rapport, and now we're going to drop the magic anti-thirsty return of the Mac phrase. Okay. We're going to drop the magic anti-thirsty return of the Mac phrase. Okay. This is what is going to set the tone for what's about to happen here. We're gonna let them know that we are here to help. We're here to sell their money quickly for the most money, but we ain't thirsty. We're not gonna take an overpriced listing. And I will have the phrase written out here in a minute, but it is essentially this. So you've already gone through the story of the report. You say, hey, I always like to start by saying that only 3 things are going to happen today. Number 1, you're gonna choose me as your listing agent, and I hope you do. Number 2, you're going to choose not to use me as your listing agent. Or number 3, I'm going to choose not to take the listing because we can't agree on strategy. And I just want you to know that all 3 of those things are completely fine. There's absolutely no pressure here. That is the magic anti-thirsty return of the Mac phrase. I have let them know that there's only 3 options today. One of them is to use me as their listing agent. I've given them the power to deny me as their listing agent if they choose to. There's no pressure. You're not going to hurt my feelings. I'm not thirsty. Hey, listen, you're going to say yes, you're going to say no, or I'm going to say no because you want to do whatever you want to do in your own strategy. And that's okay. That is completely okay. Because just like what happened to Libby, she ended up getting, I don't know if you can, Libby, I spoke about this earlier when you weren't on the call, but you went into the listing appointment. The guy didn't like your pricing strategy, but he ended up giving you a different listing.
Yeah. Yeah. So he was, he definitely loved that I kind of gave those 3 things to him. And then we talked about it and he was very, happy that I was upfront and very just honest with the pricing. And yeah, then I got a different listing of his.
Right. A better one, right?
Well, no, but when that one is ready, when he's ready to sell it, then I'm gonna get that one. But he's gonna.
When I say a better one, I mean one that will actually sell.
Oh yes, one that'll actually sell.
Yeah, I don't give a shit, guys.
Oh, okay.
Listen,
yeah.
I don't care if the price changes because 100% of 0 is 0. If you get a listing that doesn't sell, you ain't making no fucking money. So if I was going for a 550 listing and they gave me and they wanted to overprice it at 600. They didn't give me that, but they gave me one at 450 that's going to sell. You are doing drastically better than you were before. So you won. right? So that's what you do. This is
Yeah.
the anti-thirsty, the magic anti-thirsty return of the Mac phrase. And then this is when you will make a case. Okay, great. So after they've understood that there's only three things that can happen here today, and that you're willing to walk, and that they can say yes or no, then now I get to just focus on the data, right? And so every time they're like, yeah, well, this and that, I'm like, okay, cool. Well, the data doesn't support that. But and what I don't want to happen is for us to overprice and this property sit like the one I showed you here that spent 217 days on the market. Okay. And that one is just backpedaling and backpedaling. And to be quite honest with you, nobody knows what they actually got offered. At 217 days on the market, 699 went pending. Who knows? They might be at 630 cash right now. Like, like it is a bad position to be in. Okay. And I'm going to make that case. And then you're going to get the listing signed with a price that will sell and make you money. Okay. That's the result. The result is, listen, I'm either going to walk out of here with a listing that is priced correctly and that I'm going to sell and is actually going to make money, or I'm moving on to the next. Like, I'm okay. Or in Libby's case, I didn't even see this one coming. Oh, I got another house. Sell this one. Okay. That's fine. I'll take that too. Okay. So here's the magic phrase if you want to take a picture of it. Okay. Once again, here's the phrase. Wait, hold on. Hold on. Oh, wait. Okay. Here we go. So before we get started, I always like to tell my clients that only three things are going to happen today. One, you're going to choose me as your listing agent, and I hope you do. Two, you're going to choose not to use me as your listing agent. And I say just like this, because I want you to say it with a smile on your face, like, this is fine. Like, or three, I'm going to decide not to take the listing because we can't agree on strategy. And I just want you to know that all three of these things are completely fine with me. There's no pressure here. Right? I misspelled a few things, but you know what I'm talking about. All right. Calm down. I did this last night. All right. Everybody got the picture. Take the picture. Take the picture. Gone. Ladies and gentlemen, that is price to sell, price smart, sell fast. Any questions?